Hi, performers and achievers. Welcome to Performers and Achievers Daily with me, Raj Gavurla. And in today's episode, we're discussing or talking about, do you have contentment or are you content? Plus progressive overload equals breakthroughs or your breakthroughs. So this is similar to the event plus response equals outcomes, or event plus your response equals outcomes. However, in this equation, contentment plus progressive overload equals breakthroughs. You control the contentment and you control the progressive overload. What you don't control are the breakthroughs. So are you content and progressive overload? See, I've seen many people who aren't content, and they're always striving and reaching, and it seems like they're never at a good place of contentment. They're never in a place where they have more gratitude, more thankfulness, and for more appreciation for the actual skills, the abilities that they have, the accomplishments that they made, the successes that they've experienced, all of these things, and they experience these. So, do you experience contentment plus progressive overload equals breakthroughs? And then I meet people who do have contentment, and that's all they have. And that's okay. They can be that way. They don't have any progressive overload. And again, that's okay. However, they are basically in a good place for them. They have contentment. They experience contentment. However, they're not in a position or they don't have the approach or the outlook of making breakthroughs. So remember, experience contentment plus progressive overload equals make breakthroughs. And then the people who are my customers, my clients, they're the ones who, some of them experience contentment, some of them experience contentment sometimes, sometimes not, or some of them need to or want to experience contentment. And then the progressive overload, they do not have the expertise to know exactly what the progressive overload is, to experience the progressive overload in mental performance, in mental strategies, in the mental skills. And therefore, that's why they hire me. And I'm able to look at, obviously, what it is that their priorities are, what their goals are, and then what are the tasks that they have in order to experience contentment, experience progressive overload, and experience making breakthroughs. So, what's an example? An easy example or a simple example is those people who go, and we're getting close to New Year's, and they make a New Year resolution, or they want to get fit, they want to exercise, they want to go to the gym. They have that priority, they make a clear goal, and then they put together the task. And as they start to go and they do a variety of exercises, including prevention, strength and conditioning, athleticism, and then what happens? They plateau or they get injured. So, what is an example? An example is someone who's, let's say, playing basketball. They are working on, want to become a better shooter. Well, they go in and they shoot 500 shots a day. Sounds good, right? They experience contentment. What they're not experiencing is progressive overload. And they make breakthroughs, but not the quality breakthroughs that they could make because now they're injured. Fluid buildup in both shoulders. And they're wondering why, because they didn't experience progressive overload. See, if they approach that as, okay, let me start with 25 shots a day. And then based on them experiencing contentment, based on them experiencing progressive overload, what breakthroughs are they making? Of course, they're not able to control that part. However, their body will give them constructive feedback. Their body will tell them what's occurring. Their mind will also. They'll know that, okay, it seems that I'm strong here and I can do 50 shots a day. And then eventually listen to their body. And all of a sudden now, they listen to their mind, they feel, they experience their contentment, they experience their progressive overload. And now their shoulders starting to be stressed. It's feeling uncomfortable. It feels like it's in pain. And this isn't something to push through. I'm going to get us out of the memes of get out of your comfort zone and get us out of the memes of just get over it. Those are all memes. Takes more than that. It's not that simple. It's not that easy in anything. And so you should be comfortable when you're shooting those 50 free throws. And you should add progressive overload. So now, instead of shooting 50 free throws every day, maybe you shoot 50 every other day or every 2 days. And then maybe you add 100 or you add 50 more to shoot 100. You shoot 50 on one day and then the other day you shoot 100. Or you shoot 50 on one day and 3 days later, 4 days later, you shoot 100. And you continue this progressive overload where you're continuing the progressive overload based on the constructive feedback you're receiving on experiencing contentment, on experiencing progressive overload. And you won't be experiencing as much contentment if your shoulders are hurting, if they're in pain, nor will you be experiencing quality progressive overload. And so when you get these two congruent, that's when you start making the breakthroughs. And then what was seemed so difficult before, or not difficult, but let's say it was uncomfortable. And I get what they mean by get out of your uncomfort zone. That's what they mean. But really, what it is be comfortable. and then add the progressive overload, experience the progressive overload. So another example, let's say you can do a flip, forward flip. Okay, now someone says, okay, can you do a two forward flips? So that's a double flip. And what happens? It's good that you don't just jump to go do that and try to do it. Because why? You're not comfortable. So you need to be comfortable first. So how does that occur? You experience contentment or comfort in watching somebody do it, talking to them about what the difference is, or you have someone spotting you, or you have ropes hanging from the ceiling, and therefore it's safe for you to do, and you get then the experience the comfort and experience the progressive overload of what it is that needs to be done in order to experience and make those breakthroughs. And as you do, then eventually you'll go to the point of where you won't need a spotter or you won't need the ropes, right? So it's not that being comfortable is actually a great experience. It's a good experience, okay? Because you should be comfortable. So experience contentment or comfort and then experience progressive overload. Those two together is what makes breakthroughs. You experience breakthroughs. Okay, so you experience contentment plus experience progressive overload equals experience breakthroughs. Your breakthroughs, experience your breakthroughs. So there's lots of examples of this. You can look at it in lots of ways. You can look at it in a business. Okay, you have a service. Well, that service now, you're scaling it. So how do you scale it? Well, you probably don't jump from serving 10 customers to serving 1,000. It's not that easy or that simple to do that. However, when you experience contentment and experience progressive overload, then you experience breakthroughs, and eventually you do get to serving 1,000 or helping 1,000 customers. Now, the resources you need in order to do that, and maybe even the people you need, the technology, etc., needs to be in place, right? And that's what the experiencing progressive overload is about. So you can see this all the time, and I see this all the time. Sometimes people are too hard on themselves. They don't ever experience contentment, so that's called being too hard on themselves. And then sometimes they don't experience progressive overload. They want to go from the couch to running a marathon. And guess what? Maybe someone can. They're athletic, they've been working out some, but they haven't actually experienced contentment running and experience progressive overload running, and therefore experience their breakthroughs because sure, they did run the marathon, and guess what? Now they're injured, or now they don't like running, Or now it's like, oh, I just did it to do it, and they don't really sustain whatever it is that they were sustaining. Maybe they were just doing it just to show they could do it. However, to experience contentment, experience progressive overload, and experience breakthroughs, it would be good to put together the sessions of running, of maybe weightlifting, of nutrition, of rest and recovery, of meditation, of visualization, of commitment and motivation, of awareness and focus, of time management, organization, of mind management, of energy management, of leadership, of culture, of their routines and habits of excellence. These are all the pillars of mental performance. So I'm coming to you today from, and put this in your mind of, it's not as easy as get out of your comfort zone or get over it. No. However, I can make it much more enjoyable and a fun process. And this is the package that comes with this. So you experience contentment plus experience progressive overload to experience breakthroughs, to experience your breakthroughs. So it comes as a package. The package is the following. The package is experience contentment spiritually, experience progressive overload spiritually equals experience your breakthroughs spiritually. And then from there, it's experience. Well, we'll stop there because there's 5. So we'll start there. So I want you to reflect on, where are you experiencing contentment spiritually? Where are you experiencing progressive overload spiritually? And then where are you experiencing breakthrough spiritually? And keep in mind, this is talking about specifically you. This is not talking about anybody else. This is talking about specifically you. Now, it can involve other people, sure. You have your family, you have your extended family, friends, citizens, and others. And also keep in mind, it comes as a package. And so that you do have the package and you recognize this, and we'll go back for each one of these. Actually, this is a good exercise to do it this way. See, it also matters, right? That how I put together the experience contentment, the experience progressive overload equals experience your breakthroughs. So this is what I'm doing for you. This is where my expertise is. So I said there's a package. So the spiritual, experiencing spiritual contentment, experiencing spiritual pro progressive overload equals experiencing spiritual breakthroughs, your spiritual breakthroughs, comes in a package. So this package includes not only the spiritual, it includes, next comes the mental. Experience mental contentment plus experience mental progressive overload equals experience your breakthroughs. After that comes physical. Experience physical contentment. Experience physical progressive overload equals experience breakthroughs. Experience your breakthroughs. Now, this can include you and it can include other people. So, after that, there is experience learning contentment, experience learning progressive overload equals experience learning breakthroughs. And after learning comes experience execution contentment plus experience execution progressive overload equals experience execution breakthroughs. And then lastly is experience celebration contentment plus experience celebration progressive overload equals experience celebration breakthroughs. And so we are talking about you experiencing contentment plus you experiencing progressive overload equals you experiencing breakthroughs. And naturally, some of these will be yours, right? And then some of them will be involved and also be someone else's, right? And that's reality. Is that whether you're independent completely, which I don't know anyone who is completely 100% independent, there's always another person if there's some kind of contentment to experience or experience progressive overload equals experience breakthroughs. However, I get it in the sense that it's independent, in the sense that you took the test, you did the programming, you talked to the customer, you helped the customer, or you helped your customer, you helped and supported your customer. So I get it. That part is yours, and only yours. And then also, though, there were, depending upon the situation, you might have had a team that you were on. It might have been a collaborative effort. It might have been, there's multiple ways of doing it, but I think you get the idea. So in each one of those, reflect on it. Are you experiencing mental contentment plus experiencing mental progressive overload equals experiencing breakthroughs? And then reflect on, are you experiencing physical contentment plus experiencing physical progressive overload equals experiencing physical breakthroughs? Are you experiencing learning contentment plus learning progressive overload equals learning breakthroughs? Are you experiencing execution contentment plus execution progressive overload equals execution breakthroughs? And then are you experiencing celebrate or celebration contentment plus celebration or celebrate progressive overload equals celebration or celebrate breakthroughs? Are you experiencing that? So reflect on that for each one of those areas. And keep in mind, it's not sequential. However, it does come in a package and it does come in that order. And as you reflect, pick anything you want to reflect on, any priority, any goal of yours, any task of yours, and reflect on this package here. Then I can tell you I've been rehabbing a knee, so I'm not experiencing physical contentment to the level or quality that I want or need because it's keeping me from playing soccer, it's keeping me from playing basketball, it's keeping me from playing tennis. However, I do my shadow works and I do some playing on my own or training on my own or practicing on my own. And so, however, I am in rehab and have a performance therapy that I'm going through or physical therapy I'm going through. And they know my goals. My goals aren't simply to walk and go to and be comfortable and have no pain. No, my goals and my task is to play soccer again, play basketball again, play tennis again, for this not to notice my knee. So it's not as easy as maybe some of their other customers who just want to walk without pain, without discomfort. And so I'm experiencing contentment in the sense that I know that I'm doing the right things. I'm experiencing contentment and realizing this is something that's for me, that it's going to be, it's getting better. And then I'm experiencing progressive overload as I see the physical therapist and experience in her using progressive overload. And we communicate with one another because it's not just do this, get this. That's not the way it works. There's constructive input, constructive feedback. We talk to each other, discuss with each other what happens. I've been running up and down the basketball court now, which I wasn't doing before. And now, she needs to know, what kind of constructive feedback do I give her about that? What does she give constructive feedback to me about? And then we are experiencing breakthroughs, or I am experiencing breakthroughs, and my breakthroughs are mine, and I'm sure she's experiencing breakthroughs. Her breakthroughs are hers. And then we're also experiencing breakthroughs together. And behind the scenes, there's probably people that she meets with that are working on this as well. And so they're experiencing breakthroughs. And so I am actually experiencing comfort or I'm experiencing contentment in my rehab now versus being frustrated, being distracted, being, uh, agitated maybe, or even being mad or being like this is the end of the world or something to that effect, or that I won't be able to play sports again. None of that. And then I am experiencing comfort. I am experiencing contentment. I am comfortable in my rehab, and that's important. And I am comfortable experiencing progressive overload, and that's important. Or for sure, I won't be able to play sports. And I'm experiencing breakthroughs. So that's what I have for you today. If you like my podcast, like it. For those of you who are interested in my private, personal, professional, confidential services and programs, visit rajgavurla.com, fill out the brief form, and we will contact you as soon as we can. Your bonus today is to ask yourself a question here, and that is, do you remember the package of 5 to experience contentment plus experience? Progressive overload equals experience breakthroughs. Enjoy your day.